This is a beautiful satellite image of California taken in 1851. Well, not really. It's an artist rendition of such an image. You can find this image for yourself by doing a search like this, and there's multiple listings of it. It's a pretty popular picture. The big lake at the bottom of the Central Valley was called Tulare Lake, once the largest body of fresh water west of the Great Lakes. In 1890, it had a surface area of 690 square miles. Overlaying this image on Google Earth allows us to look at Tulare Lake and Owens Valley Lake to the east, or right in this image, go dry from about 1940 to present day. In the Tulare Basin aquifer, we didn't just stop with surface water. We've removed so much that we've overdrafted the aquifer by as much as 70, 80, 100 million acre feet. In the bottom right quadrant of this image, you see Half Dome in Yosemite National Park. At the top of the picture, you see Mono Lake. LA's Metropolitan Water District extended its thirsty reach several decades ago to try and bring water from Mono Lake. It was sucked down in the 90s and exposed lots of playa. Through lawsuits and other actions, we've been able to avert draining this lake. Make no mistake, though, the water wars continue on a daily basis in California. For Mono Lake, the lake dropped by 45 vertical feet by 1990, and water salinity had doubled. The same Wikipedia article on Mono Lake states that after over a decade of litigation, the California State Water Resource Control Board finally issued Decision 1631 to protect Mono Lake and its tributaries. Looking at the Salton Sea and its tributaries, we can compare the present-day shoreline with 2002 shoreline. The present-day shoreline exposes about 20,000 acres more playa than in 2002. With all of their experience draining lakes, you'd think that purveyors of California water policy would understand that draining 82% of the Salton Sea will have negative impacts on the environment, the economy, the Pacific Flyway, and even the climate. Even if some waters are allowed to pool down in the bottom of the dried out area, the two pools in dark blue shown here would be hypersaline, 350 parts per thousand. The dark blue and gray areas shown in this area would either be hypersaline waters or dried up playa. Neither are any good. Over the last couple of decades, there have been multiple ideas in terms of importing seawater to the Salton Sea to stabilize water levels. Pipelines from the Gulf of California or the Pacific. A particular innovation provided by myself and Aegis Inc. and our friends down in Mexico is that Laguna Salada has already been flooded. This is 1984 in a flood from the Colorado River. Mexicali runoff used to be used to feed Laguna Salada, and they used it as a fishery. Looking at the, let's say, eastern lobe, and going back to, let's say, 2016, we can notice that the lowest point here is getting wet. And that water is coming through the Coyote Canal. And the reason why Coyote Canal is getting flooded is not from irrigation runoff, but tidal surges in the southern or northern Gulf of California. With the silts and sands deposited by the Colorado River stopped by Hoover Dam, seismic energy and erosion from these huge tides has changed this area dramatically. The 2010 El Mayor or Easter quake actually caused many regions in this area to subside by 1.5 meters. I would encourage each of you to get on Google Earth, go through time, and look at these areas. You are witnessing the first flooding of an inland sea that has occurred in the last 10,000 years. Do you want to spend money to stop it? Or you want to utilize it to create something good for Mexico, the Kukapo, which are the Native American tribe that controls most of this area, or spend far more money on less productive projects? An issue that arises with plans that use levees to actually hold back water around the perimeter is that, well, we don't have enough water to fill the salt sink area, here shown in gray, and supply drinking water to cities along the coast. This lack of water essentially makes you create a large levee sort of section with a 35-foot deep vinyl pile, woven geotextile, and lots of compaction. It's very expensive per linear yard to produce such a section. It would answer a lot of questions to see line item bids for all levee sections around essentially the red line, the length of the perimeter levee. On Google Earth, this line measures 135,881 linear yards. The cost per linear yard is probably massive, and this is the most expensive portion of this type of project. Using and conforming to the basic principles of what the local jurisdictions are trying to accomplish, we can build a North Lake first, 2 salt sinks shown in yellow, and essentially the light blue area is a low salinity level. The purple or dark blue is a mid-level, about ocean, 35 parts per thousand, and the hot pink at the bottom is a high salinity, 44 parts per thousand. This is where we would import the seawater. Seawater would never really mix with the incoming 4 part per thousand primary inputs from the New and Alamo rivers. Importing seawater provides sufficient water that we can have water on both sides of the levees or structures. In this case, we're just simply building a separation barrier, a sand berm, a barrier island. In this scenario, the salt sinks would have a water elevation only a foot or two below that of the remaining main body of the lake, meaning we can still flow water into these by gravity, but selectively choose our location where we move water into these salt sinks. That allows us to control salinity to a far greater amount than by other designs. Simply dredging materials from one portion of the lake bed and stacking them, even in water, you can build berms or sandbars at a 6-to-1 slope. For one of the deeper separation structures, 11 yards high, with equal water on either side, this should be highly stable. And the cost per linear yard would be somewhere between $604 and probably $836, maybe $1 a cubic yard to dredge and move the material. Construction of perimeter levees by this detail or others, including rock structures, is likely to cost at least 10 times that amount. This creates a huge cost savings if you're building 135,000 linear yards of such a structure. In short, you can save sufficient funds by building the lesser berms to fund a Laguna Salada flooded to here a 1987 level or here a 1988 level. Bigger or smaller, it doesn't matter. We can use Laguna Salada as a means to facilitate more in-lake construction using existing, highly efficient, modern dredging practices. Perhaps the best phasing is to start in the north with the North Lake concept, build to the south from the Salton Sea, and start in the south in the Delta and meet in the middle. Either way, this type of project will produce the greenest, most cost-effective means of solving our current issues. The final and perhaps most important point here is that within this highly arid desert region, more water means more green projects like geothermal energy production or desalination, pumped hydroelectric storage, or even algae farms. We have plenty of desert surrounding us in every direction. We just lack the water. This brings in the most. I look forward to talking with you and answering any questions. Thank you for your time.